Welcome to Chilling in a Lounge, and today we're going to be covering this story about Nolan Wells. Um, I was a little hesitant, but I'm not going to make any assumptions. I just want to bring the information and put the information out, and we all can just kind of sit back and see what happens. But what I would like to say is the fact that there's a lot of crazy things that are happening over the last few years, ever since President Bone Spurs has been in office, and he's stepped out and changed the temperature of the country. If you understand what I'm referring to, is the fact that people are so emboldened, and it has changed the way people have approached, I would say, situations. There's people dying, black people dying, innocent people dying, um, and whatever is causing it, it's been some type of change in rhetoric, and now people are bold, and they just don't care. Everybody wanna step out and just show you what they feel, basically. So let's go ahead and check out the story and see if we can look at the information, and we can gather our own opinions. And let's go. Let's take a look at it.
July 4th, 2026, Horn Island, Mississippi. 18-year-old Nolan Wells, a star athlete and strong swimmer, vanishes during a boat trip with friends. By the time his body is found 2 days later on the island's northwest tip, the celebration has turned into a death investigation with lots of unanswered questions. Early on, reports indicated that Nolan stayed on the island without his friends voluntarily, but his family has raised some questions about whether or not that's actually true.
My sister and I actually went through Nolan's cell phone, and when we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day.
One fact that some say doesn't add up is Nolan's cell phone. Why would he stay on Horn Island and not keep his cell phone? Attorney Ben Crump has been hired by the family to head up their own investigation.
One of them is telling the truth.
I mean, nobody leaves their phone behind at all. I mean, and don't talk about kids. Like, they have a phone, that's the first thing they pick up in the morning, I'm sure. And that's the last thing they put down before they go to bed. So I agree, there's a little suspect. There's some stuff that's going on that don't make any sense. And there's actually a lot that don't make any sense. But I'm not making any judgments.
One of them is not. We have to get to the bottom of that.
At this point, the autopsy results aren't even in, so it's really difficult to figure out what actually happened to Nolan. Was Nolan drinking? Did he get stuck in a rip current? Or did something criminal happen on that fatal trip? Until the investigation is completed, it's hard to come to any conclusion. This is so sad. It was July 4th. It was a day to celebrate, and it ends up being the end of the life of Nolan Wells. And for all involved, it's a tragedy, but for the family, it is absolutely brutal. But the question is this a criminal cover-up? Is this an accident? And at the end of the day, when we get some results from this investigation, will the public trust it? I'm Vinny Politan. Let's investigate.
Like I said, there's a lot been going on, and we don't know if we can trust anything right now with the temperature, what's been going on in this country, with several black kids dying. We have come, we have quite a few situations that have happened. I can't call all the names. I can't remember them. I can remember the faces. I know the stories, but there's too much going on. And so far, to me, uh, I personally don't like what the judgments have been made. Um, I can't say that nothing shouldn't have happened, but I think that it was a little too much. As for I'm I'm black, so in this case I have my feelings. I just think I didn't agree with, I think, the last two cases that have taken place, um, because to me there's a lot of things that wasn't taken in consideration. So, but let's continue. Let's get the facts or the information and see what's going on.
So the public is invested in this story. The public wants to know what finds out. But at the end of the day, this is a story about a family, and a family dealing with a very difficult tragedy. The loss of a young man, way too early. Shouldn't have happened, but it did. And now for this family, obviously they want some answers. And it's not crystal clear yet. It's far from crystal clear. What we do know is that Nolan was out that day. He was out with friends. He wasn't, surrounded by strangers. These were his friends. So that makes you first think, if something nefarious happened, why would his friends be involved in it? Well, you think about the age of everyone, and if you're drinking and doing other things, things happen. And sometimes something bad happens. Maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's not. But then there's a cover up, and it makes it even worse for everyone. That's if these friends are involved with what happened to Nolan Wells here. And one reason a lot of people are concerned is the issue of the cell phone. Nolan Wells, the story, hey, voluntarily, I'll stay on the island. I'll stay on the island without my cell phone. Why would you do that? Unless something else happened and the cell phone was sort of an afterthought. I mean, that issue needs to be cleared up because it's a big deal.
Yeah, that I don't care what happens. No one is gonna be, oh, I'm gonna stay back and not think of their cell phone first. Like, if anything happened, at least I'll have my phone I can call. Trust me, I feel like the first thing he probably would have said would have been, hey, let me get my cell phone. You guys can go ahead. I'll get a ride with these guys over here or whatnot. But at least I felt like he would have his keys and his cell phone. Or at least his cell phone, even if he didn't have the keys. I can understand not having the keys. But the cell phone, doesn't matter if you were near water or whatever. Don't make no sense. Let's continue.
Plus all the communications on the cell phone as well. So that's really, to me, one of the keys to unlocking what happened here. Now, for investigators, they need to be transparent in this case. This is one of those cases that involves the trust or lack of trust of the system. So investigators need to do anything and everything they can to make sure the public trusts the results of their investigation, but even more importantly, that the family does. And I think they took one step towards that today by setting up a meeting with the family and their attorneys and representatives. The DA meeting with Nolan's family and with Ben Crump, their attorney. And the family came out and spoke afterwards with Ben Crump. Let's take a listen to what they had to say after meeting for the first time with the district attorney.
There will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information and finished their investigation. We also agreed that we will have a mutual inspection of the cell phone with our experts and their experts, so everybody will be able to see at the same time what the cell phone has.
That's from WLOX, and that's important. Like, it's going to a grand jury. Now, there are investigatory grand juries that take a look at cases, and sometimes they will bring charges, other times they won't. But they are the ones who will take a look at the evidence. And a lot of times what happens in a case like this is you put it in front of a grand jury because it's a hot button case, right? And you're like, listen, we want to make sure that there's no appearance of anyone putting their thumbs on the scale one way or the other. So we put it in front of.
I believe that's a must. There shouldn't be anything done that's not transparent. Everything should be on the table and straight up, especially with the family first or whatnot. But I like the steps that they are taking, and I'm hoping in the end that Nolan will get the justice that he deserves. Because right now something's not sounding right. But let's continue.
Citizens, we put it in front of a grand jury and let them decide what the evidence tells them. And that's an important step. And you'll see that many times in cases like this that are very volatile and potentially problematic for investigators and for the families, and to get to the truth. So you put it in front of a grand jury. So that's good to hear. The cell phone, this is unusual, right? That a cell phone will be looked at from the experts, from, the government, from the state, from prosecutors, as the family's own experts are looking at it. So that's extremely unusual, but a good step towards transparency.
Right.
You want the family first to trust the results. If the family trusts the results, there's a much greater chance that the public will trust them as well. So I want to walk through a timeline right now, because I think to get the big picture of what happened over the course of those 2 days, ending with the tragic death of Nolan Wells. Friday, July 3rd, we begin. Nolan Wells left his family to spend the night with friends ahead of the holiday weekend. All right, so that's all right, I'm going with friends. Like I said, this is important. He's with friends. He's not with enemies. He's with people he knows, people he trusts, people that like him. Then on Saturday, July 4th, Nolan Wells joined friends for a boat trip to Horn Island. That afternoon, the group returned to the mainland, but without Nolan. Without Nolan. Okay, that's unusual, right? A group goes out and then a group comes back -1. Family members reported Nolan missing that night after getting a call from one of their friends around 11 p.m. So to me, that timeline's important. Like, you return without your friend, okay, but why are you returning without your friend? And at what point do you get concerned?
Yeah, that's the biggest issue I have. And I heard Nolan's dad speaking, and he was saying that if he was with other kids and he was the responsible adult, he was saying that he would not leave any of those kids there because they came with him. And that's something I think that's probably based on the Black community, because that's how my family did it. If I go somewhere with you, I will be coming back with you, not with somebody else. And that's a big deal. And it's crazy how they just left him and was like, it was just okay. Oh, I'll stay back. I mean, that's what they said. We don't know. But hey, let's continue.
That your friend's nowhere to be seen. And if you leave him on an island, how is he supposed to get back? What was the plan there? What was the plan?
Right.
There has to be an overall plan. You don't just like get off a boat on a small little island and say, okay, swim back. That's not the way it works. So to me, those are some of the questions I have. And what is it at 11 p.m.? What happens that makes a friend say, okay, I need to call his parents because there's a problem here? there's a problem here. Why the worry all of a sudden at that moment, at that time?
Yeah, I think that's gonna play a big part. Like, what made them decide at that point? Let's call Nolan. Like, let's call Nolan's parents because uh, I guess he didn't return to the house. I don't know, but that's something we gotta hear. And I just don't like the fact that it seems, based on some of the information, allegedly, that the police did not eh, do interviews with certain people who should be key factors in this case. So let's continue.
Now, on Sunday, July 5th, his parents get possession of his cell phone after tracking it to a house on land. Whoa, put the brakes on that for a second. Why do they have to track down the cell phone? Why?
Right.
Like, did someone didn't know that they had his cell phone?
Right. Like, why would they have to track the phone? If he's missing, wouldn't you think it's good to just be like, hey, we have his cell phone, we have the keys to his car, we have this, we have that. And I'm just saying, um, allegedly, that's just my thoughts, okay? Um, why just not everything that you have, give to them? He's missing, let him figure out what's going on, give them what they need, and they can go from there.
Phone? Like, how did that work? How did they end up with the cell phone? Why did they have it? Why did they not know that they had it all along? Why did it have to be tracked down by the parents? Also on the 5th, Jackson County Sheriff's Department announced they were coordinating with the United States Coast Guard and Mississippi's Department of Marine Resources to search the island. And this is where things ramped up, right? We've got a missing person. We need to find this young man. And then on Monday, July 6th, that's when he's recovered from the water near the shoreline. But what exactly happened? How did he end up there? What caused his death? When did he die? A lot of unanswered questions.
And another thing people were saying as well, if he was gone for X amount of days, why did he just show up on the shoreline? To me, that don't make sense. They would have found him the day before. You know, at least, I mean, to me, I don't know. That it's just weird. That whole story. There's a lot of things that just don't add up, and I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking it, but we'll find out.
And a lot of those unanswered questions were put forth in the first press conference by the family. Ben Crump was there, Mom was there, Christine, Dad Elmore was there as well. Reverend Al Sharpton was also there. So let's take a listen to what they had to say at the first press conference in trying to figure out, like, okay, what happened to this young man?
That when I received the word of what happened to Nolan and began hearing what was pieced together, it is clear that this situation must have the most thorough and objective investigation to lead to justice. What we've been told does not make sense. And being that there is lack of confidence in the local authorities, who have already, in my judgment, seemed to have mishandled where it was going, because to just immediately, before a week time, saying there was nothing done wrong, when we hear that this young man was engaged in some kind of argument that was on tape, that his cell phone and keys ended up with one of the people that were there on the island and got away. He was one black with three young white men who happened to end up with his phone, happened to end up with his keys, then there's just too many questions that they should not be closing the investigation.
And so I'm going to get to that in a moment, these glaring contradictions, but to try to say, oh, we're suggesting it was just an accident or drowning, go ahead and move on. Well, they are not accepting it. They are not accepting it. They want to know that you...
That's wild if they just suggested that there was no foul play, just move on. That's crazy. That's crazy. I can't believe. And if they said it, I'm sure if this lawyer and Al Sharpton said it, I guess, and that's what I'm talking about. A lot of things that's happening is not typical, because I guarantee you, if that was the other way around, it would be questions they would want to know, and I guarantee you they would not rule out foul play that quick. Definitely not. Definitely not. But let's continue.
You have not taken the path of least resistance, that you have done a full, complete, thorough, impartial investigation, because it cannot be lost on anybody, but especially us in the black community. If the roles were reversed and you had 3 young black men on a boat with a young white man.
What did I just say? What did I just say? Same scenario. Yep. I'm telling you, it would be different.
And that young white man ended up dead. What kind of investigation would be being conducted by the Mississippi law enforcement officials? How many times would those 3 young black men be interrogated? So all we're asking is the same consideration you would have given if the roles were reversed. Give that consideration to this family as well. That is our fight. The glaring contradictions just jump out at you. The fact that he is there with his friends, and you look at all the videos, it seems to be he's the only black on the island, or maybe one other, but not many. And so, Jared, you have where a young woman he was talking to says that, well, Nolan said he was going back to get on the boat with the boys.
That's another thing. He said that he was leaving to go back to the boat that he came on, to the girl that he was speaking to. And the guys that he came with said that he was going to come back with somebody else. So now that's a contradiction, and it don't make any sense. And then to leave your phone on the boat that's taking in water, that don't make any sense. And I don't know. It's weird. And then my thing is, why was the boat taking in water? When they left and came to that island, was the boat already taking in water? How all of a sudden the boat starts taking in water? That's kind of strange to me. I don't know. But let's continue.
The boys say that Nolan told them he was going to stay and talk to the young woman. It's a contradiction. They're not saying the same thing.
We are grateful, especially to our friend Tashima, who actually was one of the people who helped us that night. She went and picked up his cell phone from where it was, and then provided that to us because we of course contacted authorities to figure out who to do the report with, whether it was the county or the city, which then turned into DMR, who I contacted immediately from there. And, but.
Can you tell them how you got the cell phone?
So our friend actually, when I called her, Nolan is best friends with her two sons, Jalen and Javon. When I called her, I said to Shima, have you seen Nolan? He's missing. No one has seen him. No one has talked to him. The boys were actually with her sons. So they opened up their Snapchat because a lot of the kids do have their locations where they're tracking one another. So one of the boys says, well, it's showing that I can't exactly remember what his location was showing, but my Life 360 location was showing something completely different. It was actually showing that his phone was like he was on land. And so she received the phone from that parent, and then we met up where his car was, which was at a separate location. There were issues obtaining the key, but even so, there was just a lot of...
Tell them about what happened with the key.
So I'm going to let my husband tell you about that because he actually went up to the door to get the key because at that point, I was just not.
I saw the story about the key, so let's pay attention to what the father says happened with this key, because I think that's very important as well.
In my right mind. This has just been an awful situation, just terrible.
Elmore Wansley, the father.
Okay, so the situation with the key. When we got to the house, a few of his friends, they were already there. And they were at the door in the house asking questions. So when I walked up, they were getting, things were getting kind of tense. So I turned to them and told them, I need you guys to calm down. I don't do this to me right now. I need them to kind of trust me so they can give me something. So I was able to calm them down. So the guy, he's in one of the pictures, but he came out of the room, half asleep or whatever, I think Jax or whatever. And I said, look, I'm Nolan's father. I'm here to get his keys so I can get his car. I said, he's like...
His car was in the yard.
His car was parked in the yard. So he was like, I don't know, man. Nolan's like my brother. I said, well, if Nolan was like your brother, would you please go in your room and see if you can find my son's keys so I can take his car home? He walks off, 2 or 3 minutes, come back. I can't find the keys. I said, okay, so at that point, I get the boys and I get to move them out the house because I didn't want them to go into the house and start tearing up these people's houses because then that would be a whole other situation. So walk outside by the car. One of the guys that was in the house with us, he was on the phone with a girl, and the girl told him that Nolan's keys were on top of this Jax guy's Xbox in the house because apparently she was there with him earlier. So he goes back up to the door by himself, and 5 minutes later, the keys come out. So now I feel like you done lied to me. So now...
Yeah, why would you... He came out the room, he went in the room as far as I understand, and he looked for the keys, like he said, but he didn't see the key. Now, if it was on top the Xbox and you went in the room and looked for the key, I guarantee you that key would be sitting right there and be easy to find. But now you just walk back in and come back out and you can't find the key. I mean, and all of a sudden you had it after the first time. It's weird. They also mentioned that I think they asked them to take a lie detector test and they all refused. I don't know how true that is, but that's something I heard in one somewhere. And I can understand how this father was feeling, and I would feel like something's wrong with all of this. It don't make no sense. Why would you lie to me?
I'm really in distress with you. But As far as their night goes, if I knew anyone who had a boat, I would have went out that night.
Tough spot. You can see they're broken up. It's amazing if they can even speak, mom and dad. But a lot of unanswered questions, especially early on. That's why it's important that investigators and the DA keep them in the loop throughout the entire investigation, because that's what they're asking for. They don't know what happened here, but some things are not making sense to them. And they want it to make sense. And they deserve that. They deserve those answers to figure out. But the conflict there is huge. Two people saying two different things about whether or not he was coming back or was staying on the island. Now, they also mentioned this video, and there was a video that was floating around on the internet. And everyone's wondering, is it Nolan on the video? And there's supposed to be an altercation that is heard. But ABC News got Trayston Shepard, who's a friend of Nolan Wells, who said, that's the video I'm referring to, and that's me yelling in the video. It's not Nolan, it is me yelling in the video. So, is he telling the truth? You hope he is. You hope the friend of Nolan Wells is telling the truth. He's going to know if he's yelling. He's going to know if that's him in the video yelling, because it's far away. You don't see the faces necessarily as clearly as you want to. But a lot of people are.
I'm sure that's going to be easy to verify from the people who were there. Because if there's a commotion and everybody who's around is seeing it, they'll be able to verify that. I believe that strongly. So,
talking about that video, that there was some sort of a conflict on the island. He said, no, it wasn't a conflict. That was me. Well, you've got to verify that, in fact, it was him. Now, that same friend, Trayston Shepard, also told ABC News that, and this is again talking about the girl that he may or may not have met on Horn Island. He said they met that day, and it's kind of one of those things. He did come off that day, and he really did like her. But that was the only time they ever hung out, was at Horn Island on July 4th. So this is someone new that he met. So is it plausible that he stayed on the island because he met a girl and wanted to stay with her? Yes, that's very plausible. But according to the family and their investigation, that same young woman said no. He said he was leaving with his friends. So what exactly happened? And why aren't these two stories making any sense? Obviously, it's a case we're going to continue to follow here on VPI. That's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Vinny Politan. Until next time, please don't forget to hug the kids.
Yo, this is gonna be a big case. I know everybody's gonna be following it because I think everybody wants to know what was going on, what happened. I hope the family is able to get the information that they need. I strongly believe I think the phone will be able to, they'll be able to prove what they need to prove, because that's like a computer. You'll be able to most likely uh, pull up whatever information you need to pull up. But I just think this is a very high profile case. Um, I don't believe he drowned. I don't know what happened, but there's a lot of information that wasn't I in this video, because I heard a lot of the other things, but we'll just wait for the investigation and the courts and all of that to fall into place to see what happens next. I don't want to speculate on anything. I'm just trying to give whatever information that I heard or thought I heard or whatnot. If I said anything that may have came across like their facts, I apologize. Everything that I'm saying is allegedly, and you know, I just want to put that out there to my subscribers. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You know, and just until I see you next time. and we'll try to keep track of this case and see what's going on. Thank you.